explaining the new BC living wage rates across 25 regions. All right, so yeah, let's dive into the topic of the new BC living wage rates for all 25 regions. This is super important, especially for families trying to make ends meet in a province as diverse as British Columbia. Okay, so what exactly is a living wage, and why does it matter so much? Right? Let's break it down step by step, shall we? Hashtag, what is a living wage? First things first, the living wage isn't the same as the minimum wage. The minimum wage is a legal baseline an employer must pay, but honestly, yeah, it's often not enough to meet basic living costs. The living wage, on the other hand, is calculated based on what a family needs to cover essential expenses like housing, food, childcare, and transportation. Okay, here's the thing. The living wage isn't just about surviving. It's about living with dignity, right? It's designed to help families avoid debt and reliance on social assistance programs. It's a way to ensure that workers can fully participate in their communities without constantly worrying about money. I see how this could make a big difference for so many people. Hashtag, why does the living wage vary by region? Now, you might be wondering why the living wage differs across the 25 regions in BC. Well, okay, it all comes down to the cost of living in each area. Take Metro Vancouver, for example. The cost of housing there is, through the roof, which means families need a higher income to make ends meet, right? Compare that to smaller communities, where housing might be more affordable and you'll see the wage rate is slightly lower. But don't get me wrong. Every region has its own unique challenges. I see why tailoring the living wage to local conditions makes sense. Hashtag, how is the living wage calculated? Okay, so let's talk about how these numbers are actually calculated. It's not just a random guess, you know. Researchers look at things like average rents, grocery bills, transportation costs, and even childcare fees, right? They also factor in basic non-essential expenses, like clothing, and some savings for emergencies. What's really interesting is that these calculations assume a two-parent family with 2 children, where both parents are working full-time. Yeah, that means the numbers might not fully capture the struggles of single parents or individuals, but it's a good benchmark. Hashtag, what are the new wage rates? All right, here's the part you've been waiting for. What are the actual rates? The new living wages for 2024 reflect rising costs in nearly every category. In Metro Vancouver, for instance, the rate is among the highest in the province, hovering around $24 to $26 per hour. Yeah, in Victoria, the numbers are similar, which makes sense given the high cost of housing and transportation there. In smaller communities like Prince George or Cranbrook, the rates are lower, closer to $18 to $20 per hour, right? But even these rates highlight the gap between the minimum wage and what's actually needed to get by. Hashtag, why is this important? Okay, let's get into why this matters. For many families, the minimum wage just doesn't cut it. Imagine trying to pay rent, buy groceries, cover childcare, and still have something left over for emergencies. It's nearly impossible on minimum wage, especially in places like Vancouver or Victoria. Right? That's where the living wage comes in. It's not just a number. It's a call to action. Employers who adopt living wage policies are saying, yeah, we value our employees and want them to thrive. It's about creating a fairer, more sustainable economy. Hashtag, how rising costs impact the living wage. Okay, another thing to note is how inflation and rising costs affect these rates. We've all seen prices go up, right? Groceries, rent, gas. Everything seems to be getting more expensive. That means the living wage needs to keep pace with these changes to stay relevant. Right? This year's increases in the living wage reflect the reality of higher costs, especially for essentials like housing and childcare. It's a reminder that the economic landscape is always shifting, and we need policies that can adapt. Hashtag, what can employers do? So, if you're an employer watching this, you might be wondering, okay, what can I do? Right? Implementing a living wage policy might seem daunting at first, but yeah, it's an investment in your workforce. Studies have shown that paying a living wage leads to lower turnover rates, higher employee satisfaction, and even increased productivity. It's also great for your reputation. Yeah, customers love supporting businesses that treat their employees fairly, right? If you're not sure where to start, there are organizations in BC that can help you calculate the living wage for your specific region and guide you through the process. Hashtag, 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 what can individuals do? All right, for individuals, awareness is key. Understanding the living wage can help you advocate for better pay, whether it's in your workplace or your community. Yeah. It's also important to support businesses that pay their employees a living wage, right? Every little bit helps when it comes to creating a culture that values fairness and dignity for workers. And don't forget to share this information with friends and family. It's all about building awareness. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag challenges and future outlook. Okay, let's not sugarcoat things. Implementing a living wage isn't without challenges. Smaller businesses might struggle to meet these rates, especially if they're already operating on tight margins, right? That's why broader systemic changes, like affordable housing and childcare policies, are so important. Looking ahead, I see a growing movement toward fair wages and better working conditions. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, but with continued advocacy and awareness, change is possible. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag final thoughts. Okay, so yeah, the new BC living wage rates are a big deal. They highlight the gap between what people earn and what they actually need to live with dignity, right? Whether you're an employer, an employee, or just someone who cares about fairness, understanding these rates is crucial. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive. If you found this helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, yeah? And, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, right? Leave a comment below. What do you think about the living wage? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, that's all for now. Stay informed, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Thanks for watching our video. Please hit the button and subscribe the channel.